Cha Jeong-woo's world collapsed when his brother went missing, and his mother passed of terminal cancer. To escape it all, he drowned himself in work. That is, until news came of his brother's death. But from his belongings, Yeon-woo came to learn that it was a murder. From that moment on, he dedicated himself to a single cause. Call it what you want: justice, vengeance, revenge. Yeon-woo will find those who have wronged his brother. Cha Jeong-woo is a young man with a loving family consisting of himself, his mother, and his little brother, at least until his brother mysteriously disappears one day, with no sign or clues as to what happened to him. It's as though he just vanished. Meanwhile, their mother starts searching for him desperately, something that would normally be, well, normal. Unfortunately, she's ill, terminally ill at that. Just 2 years after her son's disappearance, she succumbs to her failing health and passes away. With this, Yeon-woo is left alone in the world. His once loving family is little more than a memory. Having nothing left in Korea, Yeon-woo volunteers to be dispatched to Africa for his military service. Wow, this is some really dark stuff for an intro. Got in. Let's go forward a bit. Maybe things get better. Fast forward another 3 years. It has now been half a decade since Yeon-woo's brother vanished. Yeon-woo has finally found him. Oh wait, I could not have been more wrong. As it turns out, he's dead. Yeon-woo only found him because of his obituary, still dark as hell. While going through his brother's belongings, Yeon-woo finds a pocket watch he gifted the boy for his college entrance exams. Thinking back to the past, he remembers the two of them talking about the misspelled inscription of his name on it. Suddenly, the watch starts ticking despite being broken. Out of nowhere, Yeon-woo starts hearing a voice. And not just any voice, but the voice of his late brother. While Yeon-woo panics at what the hell is going on, the voice keeps speaking. This is a journal meant for Yeon-woo. It begins explaining something that Yeon-woo has wanted to know for years now. The true circumstances behind his brother's disappearance. On the 9th of October 2013, his brother received a strange text telling him his wish will be granted if he reaches the end of the Obelisk. Though he'd normally ignore that as spam, he was desperate at the time for any way to help his hospitalized mother. From the day he'd accepted to participate in this weird event, he started having crazy dreams. By the 12th of October, he realized these were no dreams. He had been transported to another world. One where elves, dwarves, trolls, orcs, dragons, and more were real. A true fantasy world. Cool. He got isekai'd. At the center of this world is the sun god's tower or obelisk, if you will. Rumor was, if you conquered the tower, you become a god yourself. The only thing he was interested in, though, was an all-cure medicine elixir in the tower, something he could use to restore their mother's health. On October 28th, he formed a team with other people of similar goals, and started the quest to climb the tower, Arshia. As Yeon-woo listens on, the journal proceeds to narrate the challenges his brother faced over the course of the next years. At some point, Yeon-woo actually ends up experiencing the events from his brother's perspective. Arshia ended up in the middle of several civil wars between other clans like their own. Their quest progression was severely slowed because of this. In 2016, a small ray of joy broke through this cloud of despair when he met a woman he loved. Maybe things got better. Nope, in 2017, there turned out to be a traitor within Arshia. Everyone became distrustful. His body started breaking down because he became an addict, and to top it all off, the woman he loved betrayed him and left him to die slowly and alone via stab to the heart. Her and a few others actually, people they called friends even. Yikes. Bad luck doesn't even begin to cover poor dude's life. February 2018, he survived, but is now the last remaining member of Arshia. On his own, he's managed to get the elixir. But alone, he stands no chance of getting out, surrounded by monsters on all sides. That's why he's making these journal entries now. Though he may die, he knows Yeon-woo will come and get the elixir so he can cure their mom. Little bit late for that, bro. Unlucky. As the journal entries end, a pop-up appears saying, "Succession commencing." Yeon-woo feels a terrible pain as his body is changed. Once it winds down, the system says his awakening is complete, but the succession process is not. For that, he must perfect his body. Right now, it's stuck at 5% until his body is stronger. Another pop-up appears showing him his stats and saying he must register at the Obelisk. With nothing left in his life but rage at what happened to his brother, Yeon-woo comes to a decision. No matter what happens, he will avenge his brother. Everyone responsible for his fall will answer to him. With his mind made, Yeon-woo studies his status window. Along with the abilities of clairvoyance and heightened senses, He has dragon visual prowess, which allows him to know person or object's ability beforehand. He also has the cold-blooded nature, which makes his mind an impenetrable fortress. All around, some pretty good abilities. Clutching the pocket watch in his fist, Yeon-woo thinks about how his brother probably wanted him to just get the elixir and escape quickly. However, he can't do that. Not when the people who made his brother suffer are still roaming free. Man, this is building up to be a hella revenge story. After selling all of his worldly possessions and packing a small travel bag, Yeon-woo heads to an empty park at night. According to entries in the journal, this is where an entrance to the other world should appear. Players enter this world in rounds that start at set times. The later into the round a player enters, the more advantages they get. There are also hidden pieces that newcomers can take advantage of, whatever that means. Translation ain't always great on these. Suddenly, the door to the other world appears in front of him. As he steps in, Yeon-woo vows to show everyone in there who they mess with. From this moment forth, he isn't Cha Jeong-woo. He is the instrument of Cha Jeong-woo's vengeance. Inside, he finds himself at level 0, the tutorial level of the tower that must be clear to prove a player's capability. Jeong-woo's journal spoke of this place. As Yeon-woo puts on a blank white mask, a goblin in a suit appears. We in Gringotts right now, the goblin explains the goal of the tutorial. There are 7 blocks from A to G, each with their own environments. He has a month to clear them all. His score for the tutorial will be based on how he completes each of the trials. Once he finishes, the scores will be tallied and his final result announced. The better his score, the better his rewards in the future. Usually, a party of 3 to 5 is needed to clear each stage, but that just means he'll score higher if he solos it. 8 Sung Jin-woo, go on then. As he steps forward, Yeon-woo finds himself dodging iron arrows from some booby traps. He manages to block the first few with his backpack, but before he can do anything else, another hail of arrows comes at him, too fast to dodge. After finding a safe spot to recover, Yeon-woo uses some first aid supplies to treat his wounds and remove the arrows. At the same time, he thinks about the way the arrows shot at him and their timing. There's definitely some kind of larger mechanism behind it that he can take advantage of. With this in mind, he starts moving again, waiting for an opportunity. Before long, another trap is triggered. Before it can fully launch, Yeon-woo uses his heightened senses to pinpoint exactly where the arrows are going to come from. He throws one of the battle knives he brought into just the right spot on the ceiling. With that, several blocks and arrows fall to the ground, unable to properly launch. Well, guess he's gonna abuse the crap out of this level, now that he knows how. Yep, typical OP gamer MC move. Using his heightened senses, Yeon-woo runs through traps across the floor, dodging, parrying, and taking them to increase his agility, strength, and stamina respectively. With a significant stat increase, he reaches the end of the floor and enters a rest area. After being fully healed of his injuries by the room, he meets a merchant. Same as any merchant in an RPG game, he sells items of all sorts, from artifacts to food and even skill books. Yeon-woo's eye is drawn, however, to a specific item, a return ticket. Since the merchant accepts stat points as payment, Yeon-woo offers up every single one he's gained today in exchange for a reset ticket, one that will reset all of Block A. Oh, okay, he's not done abusing the grind. Cool. With the stat points he had, Yeon-woo is able to purchase not 1 but 10 reset tickets, grinding time, after abusing the system like the greediest of corrupt politicians. Yeon-woo returns to the safe room for the final time. There's been a great spike in his stats, but he doesn't have time to keep doing this. The top players are probably already at Block E by now. With that in mind, he enters Block A's boss room. In one swoop, he's going to clear both Block A and B. After avoiding some traps and showcasing his newfound burn resistance, he meets his first true challengers, copper scarecrows, mentioned in his brother's journal. These things imitate actual players' moves and have to be beaten to face the boss. The best 2 ways to deal with them are to simply overpower them, and no crap Sherlock, or stab through them. Using the Dragon Eyes ability he got from his brother, Yeon-woo is able to see from a completely new perspective. With the world reduced to black lines on a white background, he can clearly see the weak point of the scarecrows, right in the middle of their chests. He leaps at one of them, ready to finish it. Suddenly, a girl yells out from behind to aim for their sensors. Back off, lass. He knows what he's doing. Hell, he knew what you just said too. After dodging the scarecrow, Yeon-woo jumps at it and stabs clean through its weak point, killing the thing. Yeon-woo turns to face the person who yelled out the warning to him. After speaking to him, my bad, not a girl after all. After speaking to him, Yeon-woo learns the kid is named Yule and has an ability to see mana, the magic energy that flows through everything in this world. While he ponders on the ability, Yule is stunned to learn that Yeon-woo can't use any magic himself. How the hell did he beat the scarecrows without any? Prominent power kid. The two make a deal. If Yule teaches Yeon-woo how to do what he does, he'll help the kid get out of Block A. From the looks of it, he's been stuck here for a while. Before they can start on their path though, Yeon-woo reveals he knows Yule's secret. He's actually a child, probably around 10 years old, using a disguise of some sort. Yeon-woo doesn't plan to make an issue of it, but he makes it clear he won't go easy on him just because he's a kid. Sure you won't, big guy. As the duo progress towards Block B and discuss Yule's ability, Yeon-woo learns it's an innate ability, one that people with specific genes just naturally have. Yule's ability is to see, taste, and feel mana. Cha Jeong-woo, his brother, actually had something similar. His nature was perfect adaptation. This allowed him to be compatible with mana right from the start. So much so that he was chosen by the ancient dragon Kalatus himself, the being that granted him the Dragon Eyes skill. As Yule explains more about mana, they finally reach the end of Block A. Here, Yeon-woo is rewarded with a total of 800 karma, the currency of this world. Money, money, money. Money gets me excited. Sue me. After passing through a door, the pair see a gigantic white arena with hundreds of players resting there. As they enter, Yule locks eyes with a group of players who shy away from his gaze. When Yeon-woo asks, he just says they were his teammates before but mean nothing now. Dang, could've sworn Yeon-woo was the cold-blooded one. After discussing mana some more, Yeon-woo says it's probably best for them to part ways here. Since Yule plans to go back to the normal world, they won't be able to stick together anyways. With a happy wave, Yule says goodbye as Yeon-woo walks off and instantly turns back around. Sounds like Yule's in trouble. Oh wait, he's not in trouble. His former teammates just want to apologize to him. Back in Block A, they threw Yule to the scarecrows as bait so they could escape. Yeah, I don't think an apology gonna cut it for that, my guy. And as it turns out, the douchebags don't really even feel bad for it. They're just trying to make sure Yule doesn't tell anyone about what they did. Also, they don't lose their chance of being recruited to Arangdan, a super powerful group of players, something they were promised by an executive of the group, Build. Yule, displaying a level of Givechet energy you wouldn't expect from a kid, tells them to get lost. Of course, their leader can't take that and back off. As an uber-cliché bad guy, he prepares to stab Yule in the back and get rid of him altogether. Then they can just say he's some random casualty from Block A, so much for being sorry. Before he can even draw his blade, Kan finds his hand chopped off. Brutal. And it's done by none other than Yeon-woo. Dovey would prefer to mind his own business. Yule reminded him too much of how his own brother was betrayed by his comrades. He just couldn't bring himself to ignore the kid. What was that about not being easy on him? Enraged, he tries to attack Yeon-woo. How stupid can you be? Naturally, the idiot gets grabbed, turned around and locked into a hold. Idiot, when the other guys demand to know why Yeon-woo is interfering, he just says he's doing whatever he wants. Same as they do. Karma's more than just a game currency, it seems. At Yeon-woo's command, they all drop their weapons in exchange for releasing Kan. Dudes, he just gave you a hint as to what's gonna happen. Yeon-woo pins Kan to the ground and stomps on him so hard he's out. Wait, did he just die? As the others rush at him, Yeon-woo punches the crap out of another one of them and faces the last two head-on. Without breaking so much as a sweat, Yeon-woo speeds right through the blind spot between the two and slashes at them with his knives, driving them to the ground. In their weakened state, he punches each of them in the face hard enough to knock them straight out. From the side, Yule watches all of this in awe of how powerful Yeon-woo is. Well, thank God someone sees it. After telling Yule to take care, Yeon-woo turns to leave, for real this time. As he walks off, Yule calls out that he'll make sure to become like him one day. Turning to face him, Yeon-woo tells the kid to go to the flower garden in Prisia. They'll help him. Over in the distance, a pair of strange individuals can be seen lounging around. The man wakes up the other guy from his nap to tell her about what he just saw. Together, they decide to try and ally with the man who just took out the Arangdan candidates. With Yeon-woo, he has arrived at the entrance to Block B's trial. Here, he has 4 passages to choose from. Going from left to right, they're arranged according to difficulty. Back on his first go, Cha Jeong-woo picked the second easiest path since he already had trouble in Block A. Here's the thing about RPG though. The harder the challenge, the greater the rewards. And the reward behind the hardest door is Bathory's vampiric dagger. Determined to get that dagger, Yeon-woo enters the most hardest door. Inside, he finds a giant pond of water. The task is to cross it and reach the other side safely. This water, however, has density and pressure far beyond any normal liquid. Any normal human would be crushed by this stuff. There is one way to counter this. Using dragon eyes, Yeon-woo finds the hidden entrance to the room of fire and ice, a dungeon. Here, he finds white moss. While normally uneatable for humans, it can be mixed with the heart of any animal that eats it to create something new. A miracle drug that can strengthen the bones and muscles to insane degrees. The white moss is right here. All that remains is the heart of an animal. And what do you know? There's one right there behind him. A little scent holy crap cakes that's a huge centipede. As the centipede slithers around the room, a pop-up assigns Yeon-woo a quest. To kill any fire monsters in the dungeon so they don't get out and harm the ecosystem. Depending on how many he beats, his reward will be adjusted. Unfortunately, even the one centipede quickly proves highly difficult for Yeon-woo. With its exoskeleton being unnaturally solid, his knives can barely even pierce the damn thing. Using dragon eyes, Yeon-woo sees the creature's weak spot right below its skull, in the middle of its body. Using his speed and heightened senses, Yeon-woo is able to dodge the centipede's next attack at just the right moment to counter. He stabs at the thing's weak spot with all his strength. Unfortunately, it has an inner shell. What? Why is there a shell inside the shell? Before Yeon-woo can react, the centipede tail slams him hard into the dungeon's wall. Assessing his situation, he concludes he has 4 broken bones, 2 fractures on his spine and a ruptured vein in his left thigh. On top of that, the centipede's blood has entered his body and poisoned him. Surely this is the end of his story, right? I mean, even plot armor shouldn't be able to fix this situation. My bad. Of course it can. His cold-blooded nature grants him shock tolerance, poison tolerance, physical resistance, and a new skill called will to fight. This allows him to stand and stare down the centipede, so we gotta ignore the fractured spine. This is not how the human body works, damn it. As the centipede closes in, Yeon-woo dodges once more and attacks the weak spot. This time, he tries a different approach. Instead of attacking it from the top where the exoskeleton is, he attacks the creature's underside, the side that's not as heavily armored. Couldn't think of that earlier? With the centipede beaten and his own body heavily damaged, Yeon-woo quickly moves to heal himself. With a fistful of white moss shoved down his throat, he cuts out the centipede's heart, and do I have to say it? Back in the arena between Block A and B, the Orangan candidates are faced with the member who recruited them. Upset by the indirect insult to his group, the man decides to get revenge on the white mask guy. Yeon-woo examines the rewards from killing the centipede. Consuming the white moss and heart together has healed him and strengthened his bones and muscles greatly. Additionally, he's obtained a clue for the Heart of Fire, Crest of Frost quest. His progress on that is still only 1.5%, so he'll have to focus on his true objective first, Bathory's vampiric dagger. Plus, his MP is still really low since he can't find any way to raise it. For now, it's fine, but later, he'll need to use mana, especially when he completes his succession and fully accepts the power of the dragon Kalatas. Oh well, can't do much about it right now. Oh, but first, he also learns the will to fight skill allows him to have highly sped up mental processing during battle. Further in the dungeon, Yeon-woo stands in the midst of dozens of beaten infrasonic bats. After killing them, he mixes their teeth and toenails with white moss and centipede blood. By doing this, an incredibly explosive monster powder is created. Yeon-woo bags all of the powder up in several pouches and heads further. His next stop is a colony of blue army ants, capable of growing up to 1 meter in size. They'll defend their society and queen with their lives. Well, they'll try. Nothing's stopping Yeon-woo. Bathory's vampiric dagger is just in the next room. As a top-tier artifact that's ranked 352 in all the tower, it's too powerful to pass up. Yeon-woo decides to make things easy for himself and take the smart approach to this battle. He throws the pouches of monster powder in the middle of the ants and chucks a lighter at them. In a massive explosion, 217 ants are killed and 89 are buried. Yikes. Fastest massacre since Itachi, am I right? Though there are many more ants further into the dungeon, Yeon-woo's only concern for now is getting to the room where Bathory's dagger is. To reach that goal, he steps up to face his last obstacle, the boss monster, Queen Blue Army Ant. Kill it with fire. He does not, in fact, kill it with fire. A shame. He just slices off a couple of its legs to stagger it while he rushes to the hidden room's door. Quickly, He rushes in and closes it behind himself. Inside, he finds a statue of the vampiric monarch Bathory. In its hand is the dagger itself. Yeon-woo steps forward to grab it, while narrating its abilities. While they're all quite good, like Bleed and Blood Mark, the true and most powerful ability is a seal one. After grasping the dagger, Yeon-woo remembers what his brother's journal said about this. The dagger must accept its wielder or their mind will be consumed. There is a trick to having it accept you, though. With zero hesitation whatsoever, Yeon-woo raises up the dagger and stabs his own left hand with it. He did what in the word now? Okay, that was the trick. Thank God, I thought he just, lost his mind. With this, he reveals something amazing. Bathory's vampiric dagger is actually the name of a skill, not a literal dagger. The blade dissolves into a black aura where it meets his hand and reveals its true form. The 66th rank artifact in all the world. With its now unsealed ability, it drains the life force and mana of his opponents and devours their souls. Okay, that's not creepy at all. Around Yeon-woo's hand, the skill shows itself as the maw of a monster, ready to bite down on any who'd go against it. Oh yeah, definitely not creepy as hell. On top of that, a unique skill is also unlocked. The Vampiric Monarch's authority allows the user to drain the target's vital force and a portion of their abilities. Once the skill is fully mastered, there's even a chance of fully stealing the target's skill. With his goal here achieved, Yeon-woo decides to head out and test out this new ability on the tons of waiting ants outside. Yeon-woo absolutely decimates the ants that come his way, where before he was killing them with ease. Now he barely even has to do anything. When the Ant Queen shows itself, Yeon-woo instantly uses the Bathory Dagger's special skill to drain its life force and mana. While Yeon-woo finishes off the quickly dying remnants of the Blue Army ants, the two strangers from the rest area have arrived. After tracking Yeon-woo all the way here, they're amazed to see the remains of the monsters he's beaten. This only solidifies their belief that it's best to win him over and bring him into their group before others hear of him. After tearing through the remainder of the dungeon, Yeon-woo receives a pop-up to tell him he's killed 1,000 monsters. Good lord, he's really killing it. Get it? With this, the Heart of Fire, Crest of Frost quest is complete. For the reward, he has been given a hidden piece. The new body reinforced anatomy. With this, his body is considerably tougher and his fatigue buildup is slower as well. He even has a healing ability now that will help in situations like the fight with the first centipede. The main reason Yeon-woo pursued this, however, is none of those. With his newly toughened body, the succession process is able to progress past 5%. Now, it's at a full 21.3%, changing his status to immature dragon body. With his latest power boosts and his kill count, Yeon-woo receives an option from the system to register in the rankings of the tutorial. Since he doesn't want to be targeted by unknowns just yet, he declines this. Currently, he's 281st out of all the players here despite his constant efforts. The top players, Adore, Fanti Khan. They're all at ridiculous levels of points that he can't understand how to reach. Bro, relax, you've been here for like what, a couple days? Sadly, he senses someone coming up to him from behind. Believing this must be someone from Orangdan seeking revenge, he instantly chucks a knife at the first person to appear. Luckily, the knife is caught by a second person. These are the two strangers who were tracking Yeon-woo from the rest area. As it turns out, they're Khan and Doyle, the 3rd and 11th ranked players of the tutorial respectively. When they say this, they'd expect Yeon-woo to be suspicious of their identities. He's recently discovered an extra feature of Dragon Eyes Doe. By focusing on the shade of a person's outline, he can determine whether they have good or bad intentions. By how light these two shades are, he knows they're being honest. Convenient. The two tell him their reason for following him. To recruit him as a comrade. Yeon-woo isn't interested in any such hassle and rejects them. The two reveal their reasoning in an effort to bring him around. In Block E, there's an artifact they really want, but they can't enter its dungeon without a 3 to 4 man party. And since people in Block E are already all teamed up, they came back to Block B to recruit potentially powerful players. Yeon-woo recognizes the artifact they want easily from his brother's experiences. Hargan's crown, guarded by the Lizard King, it increases the wearer's commanding presence. Yeon-woo doesn't have any need for such an item, honestly. He doesn't want to end up in a large group where he could be backstabbed like his brother was either. But in a place like this, a group of just a couple of people or so is perfect, so they can help without being a burden. Especially if he gains something valuable out of this. He accepts their request with one condition. Other than the artifact they want to get, everything else that's dropped must go to him. With the agreement made, Khan grasps Yeon-woo's hand and finishes introductions. Yeon-woo decides to use a codename, Locking eyes with Khan, he tells the man he goes by Kane. After joining up, the trio move to Block E quite quickly, since the other two have already cleared the blocks. Yeon-woo, sorry Kane, solos them all with a pretty high level of ease. The other two are simply shocked by how powerful he's become in such a short time. Once they reach Block E, Yeon-woo sees how different it is from the previous blocks. While Block A till D are inside blocks meant to refine your abilities, Block E and onwards are outside blocks to show off those abilities. Yeon-woo receives his trial for the area as they take a breather. The system grants him a tiny ball that it calls a token. There are other such tokens all over Block E, and they can even be traded with or taken from other players. The trill is to secure 99 of these tokens for himself. So basically it's just a battle royale now, or like the Chunin exams. Ah, good times. The trio head north to the forest region. The further they go, the denser it'll get until it becomes more of a muddy swamp. Several dangerous monsters like to live in and around the place. Meanwhile, Bill can be seen reacting angrily to the news of Khan and Doyle teaming up with the masked man who beat his recruits. He takes this as their way of insulting Orangdan, and by extension their parent organization, Blue Flower Island. Using this as a reason, he prepares a squad to go after the three. Stay salty, man. You're gonna get what's coming to you. That night, Yeon-woo and his new comrades are camped out in the forest. While the other two sleep, he keeps first watch and ponders recent event. The teamwork shown by these two is incredible, frankly, to a level that's not believable as newly developed. They have to have been together for at least a decade already. They don't seem like brothers, but they're definitely just as close. If anything, they kind of remind him of himself and Jeong-woo. Sadly, the two wake up and ask why he hasn't dealt with them. Yeon-woo says he was just putting it off till they got too close since he's feeling lazy. The two decide to stretch their legs a bit and deal with the problem themselves. Turning to a bush, Khan swings his sword and slashes clean through a spy inside. On the other side of the bushes, a full squad is revealed. Build's men no doubt. They try to scatter, but Khan is too fast for them. In just moments, he's sliced through most of them. Meanwhile, Doyle uses his ability, Tamer. He can control mayflies and other low IQ insects to do his bidding. He sends these forth to eat straight through some of the men. Throughout this, Yeon-woo stays seated and unbothered. Seeing this, some of the men get cocky and sneak up on him from behind. Seeing this, Doyle can only smirk. They have no clue what they're walking into. As the squad leader attacks Yeon-woo from behind, he gets ratioed instantly. Yeon-woo vanishes, reappears behind him, and slashes the life out of him. Seeing this, the others decide to rush him. You just say your boss get owned. Where the hell do you people keep your brains? Needless to say, Yeon-woo curb stomps them all with no effort. Once the fight is over, the trio collect a total of 81 tokens from the bodies. Doyle tells him about how the power system in this block works. The strongest players hoard all the tokens after forcing them away from the weaker ones. That way, the rich keep getting richer and the poor, well, they get to eat crap. That's why the point difference between the top players and the lower ones is so immense. The tokens are more than just quest items. They can also be traded for karma and mysterious items from the merchant. Doyle and Khan then tell him all the tokens here are his. Consider it down payment for his acceptance of their request. Oh man, they're actually such great friends. Yeon-woo simply thinks to himself that things are going a lot smoother than he could have expected. Before long, they'll defeat the Lizard King as well as that man. With that, he'll be able to complete the succession process. Who's that man? I dunno. Keep watching. The next day, the trio were hunting lizardmen in the forest. After beating them, Yeon-woo starts collecting their eyes. Confused, Khan asks what that's about. He explains that they're useful for crafting certain artifacts with certain effects. These in particular are for the item known as Gaija's eyes. They find a trail of blood further on that seems to be several hours old. And it's heading straight toward the dungeon of the Lizard King. And once a dungeon is cleared, it disappears. Right? Better hope whoever lost that blood didn't do that. Yeon-woo quickly clears that up with information as concerning as it is assuring. The tracks indicate whoever this blood is from was actually dragged into the dungeon after being lured here. This was a trap. Yeon-woo's a little surprised to find Khan take the news calmly. He never expected him to be more upset as a hot-headed person. On the other hand, the calm and collected Doyle has a furious look on his face. Doyle quickly schools his expression into a smile when he notices Yeon-woo looking at him. At this point, the two friends decide to tell Yeon-woo about what exactly this place is. He must be so confused since they haven't told him anything yet. I won't lie, I actually forgot about that. Bro already knows more than anyone in this damn place after all. They explain their objective and that the Lizard King can't be killed with just 3 of them. Even if it could, there's another female boss inside the lair and there's no way they can take on both of them. Not a chance. So the plan is to not even try. Once they reach the lair, Khan will distract the Lizard King. While he does that, Yeon-woo and Doyle enter the lair. There, Yeon-woo distracts the female boss. Doyle grabs Harrigan's crown off her head and they all skedaddle the hell out of there like their lives depend on it. Because I mean, they do. The plan actually reminds Yeon-woo of his time in Africa as a soldier. The only difference is that now, he's a mercenary with no superiors to answer to. When they reach Harrigan's lair, the lizardmen guarding it instantly sound an alarm. At once, the Lizard King himself steps out, furious at their trespassing. A system pop-up informs Yeon-woo of a new hidden quest. There are 5 kings that rule the forest in Block E. Harrigan is one of these. If he and his minions are all killed, Yeon-woo will get Harrigan's crown, a blue-scale scimitar, and ownership of the lair. That's a pretty sweet deal, actually. Unfortunately, gotta stick to the plan right now. Harrigan is enraged at Yeon-woo's lack of reaction to his killing intent and leaps at him. Khan steps in to engage the Lizard King and the plan begins. While those two fight, Yeon-woo and Doyle sneak into the lair quietly. There, they take out a bunch of lizardmen guards on their way deeper inside. While doing this, they come upon a prison area. Inside are dozens of humans, begging to be freed. This must be where the lizardmen bring their captives. They're storing them as food for their offspring. Doyle is furious and wishes to free them, but Yeon-woo stops him. His instinct is understandable, but Khan is out there fighting Harrigan right now. If they don't stick to the plan, he could die. Upset but convinced, Doyle agrees and steps away. Sadly though, Yeon-woo has an idea. With a little change to the original plan, they might actually be able to save all these people and achieve their goal as well. Turning to Doyle, he asks if the tamer can summon some bugs, specifically flame bugs that he saw him use for their campfire the previous night. Let him cook. Once the pair reach the inner chamber of the lair, they find the Lizard Queen, Tarragon, raging about how the humans are here for her babies. Actually for you, but alright, man. Yeon-woo calls out to Tarragon and throws a pouch at where her babies are sleeping. Terrified, the mother smacks the pouch with a club before it can hit them. Unfortunately for her, this just makes the powder inside spread around her. And it's no ordinary powder. It's the stuff Yeon-woo made back in the Frost and Flame dungeon. At his command, Doyle sends forward a swarm of flame bugs to ignite the powder and explode the crap out of Tarragon. While the Lizard Queen suffers, Yeon-woo makes his way over to her children. One by one, he picks them up and slits their throats as Tarragon watches. The mother can't do anything though, constantly being blown up and incinerated by the powder flame bug combo. Eventually, the babies and Tarragon are both completely killed. I know they were monsters and all, but damn, that was really brutal. Right as Doyle gets the crown off Tarragon's body, Harrigan comes running into the lair. Behind him, Khan comes chasing after and is shocked at the sight of Tarragon's body. As the trio watch, Harrigan proceeds to eat his wife's corpse. Yep, don't feel bad for him anymore. With that, Harrigan absorbs his wife's power and starts mutating. As he grows in power by a large margin and releases an AoE attack, Yeon-woo and the others take cover wherever they can find it. Through a bug, Doyle manages to relay messages between the 3 of them. Using this, they work out their plan from here and proceed. As Harrigan continues to rage, Yeon-woo steps out in front of him and taunts him. Enraged, Harrigan leaps at him with a huge sword swing. Yeon-woo uses dragon eyes to see something crucial right as this happens. A massive weak spot on the sword. Focusing on this spot, he parries the blade with his knife and cuts straight through the thing. As it falls to the ground, he calls out to the others to start their parts. With Khan's swordsmanship, Doyle's flame bugs, and Yeon-woo's slashes at his weak spots, the trio use hit and run tactics to drop Harrigan's stamina over time. Eventually, he's too exhausted to keep up the pace of his attacks. Yeon-woo was waiting for this precisely and jumps into action. Dashing between Harrigan's legs, he slices the Lizard King's ankles, bringing him down to the ground. With this, he can complete his own objective. He takes hold of Harrigan's head from behind and activates the Bathory Dagger's absorption. Harrigan is killed and Yeon-woo's Bathory Dagger proficiency increases to 5.4%. Unfortunately, this isn't high enough to fully steal the AoE skill Harrigan was spamming earlier. Instead, he gets a modified version called Flame Infusion. With this, he can add fire properties to any weapon he wields. As the exhaustion from the battle kicks in, Yeon-woo is brought to his knees. The others instantly come to his side and force him to take a rest. In the meantime, They'll go free the human prisoners. When they're freed, the prisoners recognize Khan as the Great Blood Sword. He assures them that this wouldn't be possible without his teammates' help. When the prisoners see who he's talking about, their leader gets upset. He turns to Khan and tells him that this Cain wanted to leave them to die. He's no human. They should be careful around him. Khan is furious at the man's behavior and makes him apologize to Yeon-woo. After all, regardless of anything else, they've been saved because of him. Did they not see him make this whole plan? Pretty sure he spoke to Doyle about it right in front of them. Idiots. As the man apologizes, his anger boils at none of his comrades defending him. On top of that, they're all focused on looting a treasure trove they found in the lair. Only one of the men comes up to him instead. He apologizes for not backing his boss up, but he's here to make up for it if he just hear him out. In a corner of the lair, those two guys hatch a scheme to steal some equipment from the guys that saved them. Wow, there's ungrateful and then there's whatever the hell that is. Meanwhile, Yeon-woo and the others are splitting the lair's rewards. They get the crown and he gets everything else. Splitting done. Unfortunately, none of the rewards are of any use to Yeon-woo except a weapon called Karlsuna's dagger. Along with the weapon's level, attack speed and power will also increase. To the others' confusion, Yeon-woo looks up and tells someone to stop hiding. Surprisingly, he gets an answer. Out from a portal comes none other than the mystery merchant himself. As he addresses Yeon-woo, Khan notes that they seem to have met before. The only way to meet the merchant is to either be a top 10 player in the tutorial or for him to seek you out personally. Yeon-woo just keeps getting more and more interesting. As Doyle and Khan sit on the sidelines, they witness something they never would have thought possible. Something so crazy. Nobody's ever even tried it. Right before their eyes, Yeon-woo shakes down the merchant and swindles him out of 405 tokens in exchange for the lair's ownership. The only reason the merchant agreed is because of a magic refinement stone over level 70 in the lair. Those things are rare, man. Also, they conduct magic and stuff. I dunno. After getting that out of the way, Yeon-woo also buys a new mask since his old one was damaged in the battle. The merchant provides him with Ghost's white face, a mask that can be repaired using dead spirits, won't fall off, and makes the wearer's presence unnoticeable. Hold up, isn't that a little overpowered for just an accessory? Before he leaves, the merchant mentions one last thing about the situation outside. Yeon-woo doesn't know what he means, but he's able to work it out fairly easily. Boy's smart and stuff. The merchant buying the lair just for the refinement stone despite the ridiculous price means the demand for them must have gone up. And since there haven't been any new players, that can only mean conflict is brewing. The war between clans and rankers that Jeong-woo suffered is only getting worse. With all their business concluded, Khan and Doyle ask Yeon-woo what he plans to do now. With his rank shooting up to 52nd and all his tokens, he can easily enter Block F now. Yeon-woo has other plans though. Before heading to Block F, he needs to go somewhere in Block E to kill a certain monster and get the best hidden piece in the whole tutorial. When he tells them he has a place to go to first, Doyle pipes up and cuts to the chase. They were wondering if Yeon-woo would like to join them long term. Yeon-woo straight up says no. Nope, no pity, nope, all the way to Nope Town and back. You don't do teams or friends alright. Doyle insists that it'd be a good idea, but Yeon-woo won't budge. Khan convinces Doyle to back off and they leave the lair together. After all, the Lizardman's swamp is pretty hard to navigate and it's easy to get caught off guard. That's why it's better to stay in a group till they can get out. Outside, the prisoners they saved are all taking cover behind Doyle and Khan as they kill the monsters in their way. Seeing this, Yeon-woo asks Khan what he'll do about them. He's disappointed to learn he plans to take care of them till they get out of the swamp. The guy's too soft. He and Doyle both are. With the way they are, these people will definitely try to take advantage of them sooner than later. Sometime later, the players request Khan and Doyle to take a break so they can all catch their breaths. One of them, the guy who apologized to Yeon-woo, suggests a specific area nearby to rest in. That's not suspicious at all. Meanwhile, Eden, the guy who roped him into the plan to betray their saviors, is watching with a smug face. The area they plan to take them to is one that's surrounded by his friends, dozens of scavengers. They'll ambush Khan and Doyle, kill him, and take all their stuff. At least, that was the plan. Too bad Yeon-woo was onto the idiot from the start. With a slash of his dagger, he cuts Eden down and proceeds to go after the players he was working with. Khan jumps in to stop him, but Yeon-woo just tells him to stay here if he still hasn't realized what's happening. As he leaves, Khan and Doyle are surrounded by the scavengers who have come out of their hiding spots. In front of their eyes, the player from before is cut down by one of said scavengers who refer to him as bait. Stuck in a tight spot, Khan can only wonder who the hell these people are. While Khan and Doyle deal with that hot mess, Yeon-woo is taking care of the upper level of it all. The superiors of the scavengers that attack them, the ones who run the human farm, they team up with monsters to trick other players and then split the loot. They take the items while the monsters take the flesh. It's a really messed up system they've got. Which is why I take great joy in showing you how efficiently and ruthlessly Yeon-woo cuts them down. After dealing with that, he returns to where Khan and Doyle are. With his help, they're able to overpower the scavengers and completely defeat them all. Pathetically enough, they have the gall to beg for mercy, claiming they were just following orders. Khan isn't having any of that dough and proceeds to end their lives. As the son of a tower ranker who's made a name for himself, he'd never have mercy on people like them. Pretty weird place to drop that info, but alright. Afterwards, Yeon-woo watches Khan and Doyle wallow in their own negative emotions. To be betrayed by ones they saw as companions and see the worst side of humanity like this, it can be rough on anyone. The only reason he's indifferent right now is because he got used to this kind of thing in his time in Africa with the military. When they finally talk, Khan admits to being disgusted by those people and even by himself. He can't imagine the kind of life Yeon-woo's lived to be indifferent right now. But if he's honest, he and Doyle are just as scared of Yeon-woo himself. The fact that he was onto Eaton and the others from the start means he was never relaxed in the slightest. He never trusted any of them, just like he said before. Any of them, including Khan and Doyle themselves. Yeon-woo can only think that the pair aren't exactly strangers to him either. He did enjoy his time with them. They just have a warm atmosphere about them. Oh, come on, man. That's just called love. Unfortunately, he doesn't voice this. Instead, he just says they'll part ways here. What the hell, bro? I thought that was development. As Yeon-woo walks away, Doyle yells for this to stop, that Kane has been nothing but good to them. He's stopped by Khan, who angrily tells him to sit down. As he calms down a bit, Khan asks if he really didn't see it. What's it? I dunno. Keep watching. It is a tassel on one of the scavenger's weapon, and it has the Orang Group's symbol. Together, the two put together the pieces to discover a massive conspiracy that's been ongoing for some time now. The Orang Group took control of the tutorial's management for one reason only, to coordinate the actions of the scavengers and benefit from them. The reason Khan drove away Kane is so that he doesn't get caught up in whatever this mess is. Khan tells Doyle that he's going to go pay Build a visit. In the meantime, Doyle should go to Big Raid, a hidden piece that can be acquired with Harrigan's crown. Not only will it boost their points to the top of the rankings, it was also their main goal in the tutorial. In the distance, Yeon-woo heads east, wondering if he did the right thing. He can already tell what Khan and Doyle's plans are. He just hopes they don't get themselves into too much trouble. If they'd asked him for help before they separated, he's not sure he could have left them. Someone's going real soft. In Orang's base, Build receives news that the scavenger squad they sent after Khan and his friends has been killed. In response to this, he starts making plans to send an even stronger group and join in himself as well this time. Oh yeah, real original dude. Right as he's finalizing these plans, the base descends into chaos. After rampaging through the place, Khan and Doyle break into Build's office, enraged and ready to fight. With just a few words exchanged, Khan and Build clash blades. In the east region of Black Mountains, Yeon-woo is seen terrorizing the crap out of an orc village. After killing a few, he grabs one and interrogates it about the location of a hunter's house nearby. This person is the only way to find the hidden piece, Akashic Snake. Yeon-woo arrives at the hunter's home. The hunter is a warrior-class dark elf named Galliad. But the thing that truly makes him special is the fact that he saved Cha Jeong-woo's life when he was going through the tutorial. Wood straight up died to Akashic Snake without Galliad. And after that, Galliad actually became his first master. When Galliad comes home from hunting, Yeon-woo tells him he's here to get Undine's Glass, an artifact with tons of Akashic spirit that can draw out the snake from its hiding place. Since Galliad is the only one who can make it, one has to pass his test to obtain the thing, and the quest is hide and seek. Cool. If Yeon-woo finds him 5 times out of 10 tries, he passes, and if he manages more than that, he'll get an extra reward as well. Succeeding also grants the chance to learn Galliad's skill, Blinking Step or Shunpo, essentially a super useful stealth and speed skill. If honed, it can even evolve into Teleport, a signature skill of the current #1 ranker All For One. Nobody show this to Horikoshi. Everyone's gonna get sued. Luckily for Yeon-woo, the skill has one condition. The user's feet have to touch the ground to use it. Between his dragon eyes and heightened senses, well, that makes it impossible to hide from him. He can see the footsteps themselves. Broken? Yes. Awesome? Also yes. Using this advantage, Yeon-woo manages to catch Galliot a full 7 times. For that, he's rewarded with both an Undane's Glass, as well as a skill book for Shunpo. Awesome. It even boosts Yeon-woo's senses further. As the two talk, Yeon-woo reveals his plan to catch Akashic Snake. Galliot's reaction is far from what he expected. The Dark Elf gets an apologetic look and tells Yeon-woo the snake's already dead. The last people to come here killed it. The tutorial rank 1 and 2, Adora and Fanti. At the sight of the snake's death, Yeon-woo examines the area and is nothing but confused by what he's seeing. The snake's location is a secret only Archon members should have any info on, and yet the markings around here are clearly over a week old. The ones who did this were very well aware of what they were doing. Off to the side, Yeon-woo spots something that freezes him in shock. Oh, it's just the snake's corpse. Holy crap, it's the snake's corpse. That thing is huge. Not only does it seem it was beaten quite easily, the thing's most crucial parts, the core and venom gland, have been extracted. Sitting down with his back to the snake, Yeon-woo takes off his mask and thinks about what to do. Right now, he's only 40th in the tutorial rankings. For his revenge to succeed, he has to reach first before the tutorial ends, but that's not seeming possible with the amount of time left. By sheer luck, he notices something strange. There's a huge wound that was made to extract the thing's brain. Okay, maybe not just luck, it was a pretty obvious observation. Yeon-woo decides to follow a set of footsteps that lead away from the snake's corpse. Whoever took his brain went this way. The footsteps lead him to a dark cave. A system pop-up reveals this to be the snake's lair. Inside, he sees a bunch of orcs carrying out a brutal ritual to resurrect the snake. Much to his surprise, it actually works. Out from the brain spawns a miniature copy of Akashic Snake. A system pop-up tells Yeon-woo about the snake's ability to resurrect and that the snake's magic core gets stronger the more the snake grows. Knowing this, Yeon-woo makes a plan of his own. Since the snake seems to be like Bathory's dagger in the sense that absorbing other beings makes it stronger, he's going to help it. He himself will bring more living sacrifices to the snake to make it more powerful than ever. Only then will he complete his original goal for the greatest benefits. Over in Lizardman territory, Yeon-woo sneaks into the new chief's tent and assassinates him. Then, he places the corpse of an orc next to him, so it seems like they killed each other. Just like that, he leaves the tent and sets it on fire as he escapes. Is this really the good guy? Actually, never mind. Just remembered what the lizardmen and orcs do to people, he valid. So, not sure how to put this. Yeon-woo instigates a full-on war between the monster races of Block E. I won't bore you with the details, but through a ton of staged situations and trickery, he gets all the monster races of the 4 regions to form an alliance against the orcs. All sparked originally by the scene Yeon-woo created in the Lizardman Chief's tent. It's all very brutal. The monster army charges straight into orc territory, trampling all that stands in their way. Funnily enough, this includes the Orang squad build arranged to kill Yeon-woo and his former teammates, Suckers. As the monster forces charge into orc territory, the Orc King is furious. However, after thinking about it, he sees this as an opportunity to progress their god's resurrection. Akashic Snake shall rise again. Meanwhile, Yeon-woo watches all the chaos unfold from the background like a true puppet master. As a great battle between the Goblin and Orc Kings begins, Yeon-woo returns to the snake's lair to hurry and bring it to the battlefield. There, it'll be able to consume tons of monsters and grow into the largest, strongest version of itself there has ever been. It doesn't even have to do much to make that happen. When the snake senses the amount of blood being spilled on the battlefield, it slithers out of the lair and heads that way on its own. Meanwhile, Yeon-woo wonders about the mystery of the snake's presence in the tutorial. Its difficulty level is so high it was never even supposed to be in the tutorial, but the fact that it is here must mean there's a reason for it, right? And whatever that is, it's gotta be something big. After doing some searching around, Yeon-woo finds a frozen little cave full of ice crystals. Inside is a humanoid mythical root. A herb that takes centuries to grow increases the magic potency of any who consumes it. Akashic Snake must have been here to guard this thing. Feeling luckier than ever, Yeon-woo steps forward to grab the root and eat it. As he's about to do just that, the root wakes up. Well, it is humanoid after all. Makes sense it would fight back. Unfortunately for it, Yeon-woo has a lot more battle experience and wits. He throws his knives in what looks to be a failed attack but actually knocks down a bunch of icicles on the route. When it jumps out of the way to dodge, Yeon-woo manages to grab it and instantly chomps down. With the consumption of the root, Yeon-woo's mana starts skyrocketing up from its miserably low level. Along with this, his body's succession progresses further as well. It reaches a full 42.9%, granting him the status of half-dragon's body. He also gains the magic circulation skill. With this, he can begin learning how to control magic itself. Meanwhile, on the random mini-battlefield where the Orang squad fell, one lone soldier stands back up. Even in his battered and maimed state, he's able to make out that the monsters are headed in the direction of that Kane person's last known location. Deciding to take matters into his own hands, he vows to kill Kane himself and become first in the tutorial rankings. Yeah, that might be a little tough with your single arm. You're screwed, bro, just stop. Inside the frozen cave, Yeon-woo is happy to learn he can now finally use magic to boost his basic skills like movement and close combat. While leaving, he finds a golden pendant with a picture of Galliad's family inside. Seeing this, Yeon-woo realizes the reason Galliad has been after the Akashic Snake for so long. It was all to retrieve this pendant. After pocketing it for later, he heads to the battlefield of the monster war. Here, he finds nothing but absolute carnage. The monster forces are less than a tenth of what they once were, and the Goblin and Orc Kings are on their last legs. To make things even sweeter, the Akashic Snake has grown to a whopping 50% larger than it was meant to. Using magic circulation to boost his Shumpo, he leaps onto the snake's head and activates the Bathory Dagger's ability. In just moments, his dagger mastery rises to 8.2% and the entire snake's life force is devoured. As if that weren't enough, he cuts out the thing's magic core as well. Originally meant to be fist-sized, it's grown to the size of a bowling ball thanks to the snake's growth. Yeon-woo activates the dagger skill once more and absorbs the core. Since he's absorbed such ridiculously high amounts of mana and life force, his body will need an equally large amount to process it all. His half-dragon body can't even absorb all of the magic, so first, his succession progress will resume. The system tells him it'll take about 15 hours for his body to fully awaken. He should stay in a safe place till then to avoid any injuries or trauma. Such a thing will cause the awakening to fail. That might have been nicer to know before he started the process in the middle of a damn battlefield. Luckily, the Goblin and Orc Kings are the only real strong monsters left, and they're terrified by Yeon-woo's predatory look. Also, they're already half dead, so yeah, no, there's that. Despite their condition, the two Monster Kings are determined to fight Yeon-woo when they realize he started this whole war. The Orc King runs at Yeon-woo swinging his club. Swing. There goes his head. Yeon-woo done sliced it off. With basically no meaningful struggle, he takes out the Goblin King as well, ending the battle. After that, the monster armies are heavily demoralized. Most of them flee. The few who remain are devoured by Yeon-woo. One after the other, he absorbs hundreds of monsters' life essence. The experience leaves him exhausted, but he has one last person to deal with, the Orang soldier who has a grudge against him for some reason. Dude's kinda shallow, to be honest. He believes Yeon-woo is too exhausted to defend himself now, and can be defeated even by him. Luckily, that doesn't have to be tested, because Galliad shows up just in time to shoot an arrow through the idiot and end that fight before it can start. Coming down to Yeon-woo, he asks if the recent chaos is his doing with a judgmental look on his face. Yeon-woo doesn't even have the energy to speak any more dub. He just chuckles and hands Galliad the pendant he recovered before collapsing in the Dark Elf's arms. When next he wakes, it's to find his succession halted at 92.5%. Even after all the monsters he devoured, he wasn't able to fully complete the succession. His status is now that of an incomplete dragon. After dealing with a literal wall of notifications from all the quests he completed, he sees how drastically all of his stats have shot up. Magic circulation in particular has increased a lot in mastery despite only learning it yesterday. Not only does his magic feel much more in tune with his body, but his senses have gotten much sharper as well. They're almost overwhelming, much like when he first unlocked the heightened senses to begin with. Galliad walks into the room he's laying in at that moment, bringing a basket of fruit with him. He explains that Yeon-woo's method of strengthening his body was flawed. He absorbed far too much energy and life essence without giving his body time to assimilate it first. As a result, he was on the verge of exploding from energy overload. Galliad used the same process that's used for creating an Undan's glass to stabilize Yeon-woo's body, something that takes immense effort. Yeon-woo promises to return and repay this favor someday, but Galliad just brushes it off. With that, he has just one last thing to say to Yeon-woo. Thank you. The pendant is now worn proudly around his neck. After recovering enough to move around, Yeon-woo leaves Galliad's home and heads out using his newly enhanced Shumpo. With his new succession rate of 92%, all his abilities feel significantly stronger and easier to use. If this is how it feels now, what'll it be like at 100%? Stupid OP, that's what. After returning to the site of his final battle, Yeon-woo accepts the rewards from the quests he's completed. The first of these is a black bracelet wielded by the Akashic Snake's owner. With this, he can reap the souls of those killed by him and use their souls as an energy source for dark magic. Many of the weapon's abilities are locked, however, stating Yeon-woo doesn't meet the requirements for them yet or they're sealed. Well, that's just a lazy nerf, damn it. When he puts the bracelet on, it interacts with his Dragon Eyes skill to enable him to see dead souls. With that, his Dragon Eyes mastery goes up to 13.5% as well. With this new vision, he can see the souls of all the monsters he killed here, holding resentment towards their killer, the Souls attack. Unfortunately for them, they're weak as hell. Yeon-woo goes on to basically use them as training dummies for his new abilities with the black bracelet. He reaps a soul and infuses it with his dagger to inflict curse and dark magic damage on each hit. After reaping another 5 souls, he tries to mix that with his own skills. When he uses it with blazing fire, an explosion capable of killing an orc occurs, and that was with just 5 souls. What would happen if he took all the souls here? Shwing. And just like that, he takes them all. 150 souls lay in his arsenal now, waiting to be unleashed. Once that's done, he accepts the rest of his rewards, because there's a lot of them. Monster Hunter, a title that allows him to hunt monsters better, gives a stat buff and increases the chances of being cursed by a killed monster. Eye of the Goblin King. Wearing it will cause the Goblin King's resentment to be felt and affect the player negatively. It could be effective if the user properly handles it though. Yeah, sure it could. It also increases his curse and poison resistance, so that's nice. Lastly is the monster's 5-colored gem. Created with the resentment of all 5 monster races, it contains an ability of each. With the goblin's feet and orc's hands, his Shumpo will be enhanced. And with the ears, nose, and eyes of the other races, his heightened senses will be further heightened, I guess. Honestly, the items are pretty much perfectly suited for one like him. Very convenient. At a dining table, Yeon-woo and Galliad discussed his plans from here. Yeon-woo already has everything he could get from Block E, so he's going to be heading over to Block F now. Seeing the improvement of the boy in front of him, he's reminded of his first student from the past, Jeon-woo. To himself, he wonders if the two are actually related. Wow, that's... damn. Talk about hitting the nail on the head. Galliad also hands him the sword of the last guy that tried to fight him. Though it may not be useful to him, he can still sell it to the merchant whenever he next meets him. It's a pretty expensively made sword after all. Then he asks Yeon-woo how he got on Orang's bad side anyways. Wait, what? What do Orang have to do with anything? Yeon-woo is shocked to learn the tassel on the sword, the same one the scavengers had, is the mark of Orang. The two groups are one and the same. Yeah, you're a few chapters behind on that realization, big man. With that crucial piece of the puzzle now known, he starts putting together the pieces. Khan and Doyle already figured this out and went after Orang. And since there hasn't been any news about them, they must have been defeated. He has too well. Does he really want to get himself involved in this? Thinking back on his brother's final words in the journal, he remembers who he is beyond the pain and rage. There's no way he can turn his back on the two he's grown to see as friends. Outside, Galliad asks Yeon-woo if he's decided to go to war and offers his own help if so. Yeon-woo has to admit, it'd definitely be a great boon. However, this isn't just about saving Khan and Doyle. One of the 5 swords that pierced his brother's heart when he was betrayed belonged to a member of the Azure Sword clan, the ones behind the Orang group. This is about revenge as well. No, this is about revenge first. Revenge for his brother who deserved so much better. That's not something Yeon-woo will ever let anyone else do, but him. After saying goodbye to Galliad, Yeon-woo leaps away. In the distance, he ponders the reasons Azure Sword clan may be taking part in something like the scavenger group. Whatever the reason, something's fishy. And if he can figure out what that is, he can use it against the clan for his own plans. Woo. Blackmail baby. I think at least, not sure if that's where he was going. Could be planning to destroy their reputation too. There are 4 days left for the tutorial to end. Before then, he has to take care of Orang and finish the tutorial as well. He'll hit Orang from several places, spreading their forces thin and exhausting them. And then, when they're already spent, he'll infiltrate their Block F headquarters and hit them where it hurts. He'll finish this in one day. God, he's so cool. In the Orang base in Block F, Build finds himself in a sticky situation, with Orang's forces depleted to a small fraction of what they were, and the branch members from the tutorial all gone. It's safe to say the group is finished. There's no coming back from this. When the Azure Sword clan hear of this after the tutorial's end, they'll surely be punished for leading the group into ruin. However, there is one thing that could secure his position: the completion of a forbidden artifact that he was tasked with creating by a superior. Now, they should be able to complete it with some high-rank materials they recently secured. The materials being Khan and Doyle, who are captives of Orang since their attack. After giving out an order for Mask to be hunted down, Build heads to the dungeons to tell his prisoners of their newly decided fate. This fate is tied to the whole reason Orang allied with the Scavengers in the first place: to kill players and create a product through experimentation, something that should never exist naturally. After he leaves, Khan is in turmoil over this development. If it was just him, he could deal with it, but for Doyle to suffer like this is unacceptable. The boy deserves so much better than this. Luckily, the plot chooses that moment to move forward. A sudden shockwave occurs. Shaking the whole base up, a soldier runs up to Build and informs him that an intruder is causing trouble outside. Outside the base, Yeon-woo is massacring the members of Orang using his latest abilities. With Goblin's feet, he rushes forward and downs a guy. With Goblin's eye, he senses an incoming attack and dodges. With the black bracelet's black blade edge, he reaps the souls of several soldiers. Using those souls with his flames, he explodes a bunch more. The battlefield is a sight of utter mayhem as Yeon-woo rips through all in his path. He's only given pause when a voice from high up calls out for everyone to stop. This is none other than Build's, and he's here to face Yeon-woo himself. As Build faces Yeon-woo and starts yapping about some narcissistic crap, Yeon-woo realizes his energy feels familiar. Though he can't place it at first, he quickly realizes where it's from. The memory he relived of his brother's betrayal. The sword of the Azure Sword clan member that pierced his heart belonged to a man named Leonti. Build is one of that guy's closest friends, or rather, underlings if we're being real. The day Jeong-woo was stabbed, Build was watching the scene with a damn smirk on his face. With the flames of his wrath stoked, Yeon-woo stands ready to absolutely demolish Build. When he tries to send out a call for help, he blows up the messenger's head like a birthday balloon. He taunts Build into initiating a proper one-on-one battle. When it begins, Yeon-woo is surprised to find he can parry and counter his sword swings with ease, to the point that he actually starts thinking about more important matters while fighting, like the fact that Leonti must be using Orang as a front for some nefarious purposes of his own. Returning his focus to the fight, he lashes out at Build with several quick slashes and dodges his wild swing to stick his boot into the idiot's face. While Build is confused as to how Yeon-woo can face him so easily as a new player, Yeon-woo calls him out. All his time spent with people weaker than himself has dulled his abilities by a large margin. As he is now, he sucks at fighting. Tear him to shreds. To mess with the pathetic man further, Yeon-woo activates his spells at maximum output. The pressure from this alone brings Build to his knees in a bloody mess, his left arm simply gone. Some underlings try to defend him but fall to Black Blade's edge. No more of them are willing to step forward after seeing this. At least, not until Build reveals a skill he has. Control puppets. With this, he can mind control the other Orang members to do his bidding. At his command, they line up in front of Yeon-woo while he makes a run for it. Could he get any more scummy?